bit late today, but we will try to keep it moving, and hopefully this will be a valuable time for you today. If you have any questions or technical problems, please contact Emily Reese at MHS, and that's on the screen. And also, we will want time for questions and discussion, so please be writing some things down as you're thinking of it and sending it to Emily using the Q&A button on the Zoom conference, and later she'll help moderate that. My name is Emerson Lesher, and happy to be with you today. I'm also very pleased to have Rachel Schwarzentrooper Miller with us back again. She was with the previous webinar, and happy that she's going to be contributing to our topic today as well. So welcome, Rachel. It's good to have you.
Thank you, Emerson.
Great. As I think many of you know who have signed up for this webinar, or if you're new, this webinar is really based on a website called valuedleadership.org. And if you've not looked at that website ever or recently, I would encourage you to look at that. And you may want to follow up from our discussion today on collaboration. But the website is really based on what we call the 4 C's. And the 4 C's are character, collaboration, culture, and change. And we believe that these are apropos for us today as Anabaptist related organizations, and that the early Anabaptist groups also utilized these concepts, these themes in the Anabaptist movement. And so we're trying to understand how did they think about these things, and how might we today, how can they be helpful to us as Anabaptist organizations in the 21st century. And today, the focus is on collaboration. And I want to, this is from the website, definition of collaboration, just to highlight a few things for us today. And collaboration, as we're defining it, is to enlarge the circle, to create more community. And I would say that's one of the things that the Anabaptists were particularly interested in, is creating community. And so we see collaboration as doing that. It's also to engage a variety of perspectives. We realize that in collaboration, there's not just one perspective, but there will be 2, 3, 4, or many perspectives, and it's trying to understand them and include them. It's also an important part of collaboration is also developing a shared vision. While we may have different views, different ideas, it's hopefully we can come to a point where we have a common vision or shared vision, and that we really work together to help respond to what we're seeing, what we're experiencing, how we want to interact with others, how we want to help others. So it's also results-based in the sense of we want to collaborate for a greater good, for a larger good. And today, when we're talking about collaboration, we're thinking not only of inside the organization, which might be between people or departments or programs, but also externally, which might involve other organizations that we are in our communities or that we might relate to. So why is collaboration one of the 4 C's? Why did we list this as one? And I would say first, because it has building community, as I said, has been very important to the Anabaptists and their theology, their practice, how they have approached things, and I'll talk about that more. And also, collaboration is something that is becoming more common today, is becoming recognized as a part of thriving as an organization, to not be isolated. Another way to think about it is to not be in a silo, but to relate to others, whether that's inside your organization or outside. And so we think it has, it applies to us today. I want to just highlight 3 things related to the Anabaptists and their thoughts about collaboration. And if we could have the next slide, Emily, that'd be great. Thank you. The first is that faith for the Anabaptists was not an individual experience. It was not only or primarily between you and God, but it was also between you and other people. So there was both a vertical and a horizontal aspect to faith, and both were seen as important. And I think that has a lot of implications as we think about how we lead, how we do our work as organizations, is this idea of up and down as well as sideways. Um, and that this was something that the Anabaptist groups in Europe 500 years ago particularly were felt strongly about and tried to encourage. Um, it's also that there's a need for others, that the Christian life cannot be lived alone, and we need others for discernment, and that this understanding what the Spirit might want is really a group process. And third, that the Anabaptists, in terms of how they might help us think about collaboration, that the gifts of all people are important, that everyone, rich or poor, educated or non-educated, um, have something to bring. They have important gifts to share for all, and that they should be included. So both people on the margins as well as those with authority should be included. And so that also, I think, says something about how we might approach collaboration. So hopefully that's a helpful background in terms of what we might understand as Anabaptist organizations. And I'm going to now invite Rachel to lead us through some ways that this might impact our daily activities as organizations. Rachel?
Yes, thanks for that introduction, Emerson. I'll be introducing kind of 3 ideas around collaboration to really help us kind of wrap our heads around what are we talking about when we talk about collaboration, and what are some examples. So in one book that I'm reading is Blessings for Leaders by Dan Ebner, and in that it's a book that talks about the Beatitudes, the Sermon on the Mount that Jesus gave, and he talks about how leadership is a dance that leaders and followers perform together. And that's so important when we think about collaboration, is that it's a relationship. We are shifting from leaders to followers, and we have this back and forth that a leader who is really practicing collaboration, they do that. They have this back and forth. And in the book Blessings for Leaders, it lifts out Matthew 5:5 as that blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. And when we think about meek leaders, meek isn't really a word that we sometimes associate with leaders, but it's so important because really, being a meek leader is allowing for that dance to say, I don't have all the answers. I don't have all the solutions. Not all the ideas need to come from me. I'm going to be leading at points, but at other times I need others to lead at points, and I need to rely on others to really have the best vision collectively and go in that right direction that our organization is needing to go. And so one example that I'll give from my own life is I work for a Mennonite Anabaptist higher ed institution, Heston College. And there are 5 sister schools. There's 5 Mennonite colleges within our Mennonite organization or Mennonite denomination. And we've all historically gone to the National Mennonite Convention to exhibit, to connect with high school youth. And at that convention, our exhibits have always been very competitive. We've all wanted to connect with those high school students and get our name out there first and have the best and biggest booth with the most creative, engaging opportunities for students. And with tightening budgets, having the presence at this convention be as big and impactful was getting harder and harder. And we started to say, maybe we should collaborate and pool our resources so that we can really hold to purpose, which is introducing Mennonite higher education, Anabaptist education to high school students. That is what we aim to do. And so if we're going to do that in a meaningful, interactive way, we're going to be better together. And so we've really worked hard to kind of create a shared vision and a shared purpose together. And so you might think of, in popular culture, there's many examples of better together. So we all love Al Roker. So the next slide. So we all love Al Roker. He's a fun guy, travels the country in his big bus and has the weather on the Today Show and does it wonderfully. But, really, he's better with his team. And same thing in athletics. We all remember Michael Jordan as the best basketball player. But really, he wouldn't have been the best without Scottie Pippen. They had that dance together. They would lead and follow and lead and follow. They were better together. And then also we think of the next example of, corporations are better together at some point. So AT&T is a well-respected large company, but once they partnered and collaborated with Apple, they became better together. Their companies and their customers benefited from the partnership and the collaboration. And so that would be some examples of the dance. We lead and we follow. Collaboration is a relationship, and we can be better together, create something new. The next idea I'm going to talk about is this idea of trust in collaboration. When we lead with trust, it sets the tone for collaboration. And so when you think about leading with trust, it's easy to go in and think about, well, I'm the only one that cares, or I trust my idea the best. And thinking about, instead of going in with that approach, but to instead extend trust freely and first, that breeds relationships, which breeds collaboration. Again, collaboration is a dance. We're leading and following. So if we're trusting those that we're dancing with, it creates relationship. It creates an open door to collaboration. And I'm going to use an example from Built to Last from Jim Collins. It talks about Nordstrom, the company Nordstrom. It's a clothing store. And they talk about how at employee orientation, everyone gets an employee handbook, which is a single 5x8 card. And it reads in its entirety, "We're glad to have you with our company. Our number one goal is to provide outstanding customer service. Set both your personal and professional goals high. We have great confidence in your ability to achieve them. Nordstrom rules. Rule number one, use your good judgment in all situations. There will be no additional rules." So that to me is a great example of a company who trusts that people come in wanting to practice outstanding customer service. And that let's assume that to be true. Let's trust that to be true right away. And what tone does that set for relationship and collaboration? And the final example I want to talk about is just this idea of self-care. And so the next slide talks about, self-care must be present in order to build healthy community. And so again, going back to that leadership is a relationship, collaboration is a relationship. It's a back and forth. It's a lead and a follow. And so without caring for ourselves individually, how can we really create healthy relationships which lead to healthy community? And so when in the book, Let Your Life Speak by Parker Palmer, it talks about this idea of self-care. And I'm going to apply it to the individual, but also to the organization after this quote. So I have become clear about at least one thing. Self-care is never a selfish act. It is simply good stewardship of the only gift I have, the gift I was put on earth to offer to others. Anytime we can listen to true self and give it the care it requires, we do so not only for ourselves, but for the many others whose lives we touch. So in order, again, to build healthy relationships which breed collaboration, we need to take care of ourselves individually, but also if you think of it from an institutional standpoint, we also have to care for ourselves institutionally. So for example, Everence is a Anabaptist related financial services group. And they've made the commitment to say, we're only going to invest in companies that we agree with their core values, with their purpose and mission. And that's going to be our commitment in responsible investing. And, could they get more of their bottom line? Could they gain more in their bottom line by investing in some companies that maybe run counter to their values? Probably. But that compromises their purpose. And so when you think about self-care organizationally, that's another piece to consider of, there are times when caring for the organization to collaborate. And then there's times when it's not caring for the institution to collaborate. And so, is it collaboration or is it a distraction? And so that's something to think about as you navigate collaboration that is linking to your purpose and lifts up your purpose and your mission and your core values. So thinking of the dance, thinking of leading with trust, and thinking of self-care are three things that I would lift out as examples.
Great. Thank you, Rachel, for that. And I want to just go to the next slide, but first, I hope that you're thinking of some questions or comments and are typing those into the Zoom question and answer window and sending those so that we, in a minute or two here, can have some discussion with those that are viewing the webinar. Just to make some summary comments in terms of how this, again, might relate back to being an Anabaptist related organization. And the first I would say is to acknowledge that there are many collaborators, to admit that up front and to realize that we are not in this alone, both inside, it takes more than one department to run this organization. And it probably is taking more than just you to do your job, that you're collaborating with organizations externally as well. And to resist the urge to go it alone and to resist the urge to be a silo. And to acknowledge, first of all, that yes, indeed, we really are interdependent. That would be, I think, one way Anabaptists would think about this. A second is that the Anabaptists were very strong on relationships and building relationships. And sometimes relationships, both across departments and across organizations, is more important than money or even knowledge. And I would encourage you to be thinking about how building relationships is helpful to you within your organization and outside your organization. Building community would be another way to think about it. And finally, I would say that when there is authentic collaboration, when there's really two or more groups are coming together, again, whether it's two departments or two organizations, that something new will emerge. That if we go into a collaborative effort and believe that we're not going to be changed, it's probably not a true collaboration. And we won't gain the benefit from that collaboration. So part of the collaborative activity is looking for, being ready for the new that is going to emerge from that. So let's go to some questions and discussion. Emily, do we have any so far? What do we have?
I do not have any questions so far.
Well, hopefully we'll get some.
Okay, I do have a question. I'm intrigued by the idea of self-care being applied to organizations. Just as people need organizations, organizations need people. Say more about how this might look, what this might look like.
Yeah, I can start, or Rachel, do you want to start on that one?
No, go for it, Emerson.
Well, I think sometimes in organizations, it's okay to say no, and just as it is for individuals. And so I would say that, for example, there may be times where you actually say no to a collaboration because of the organization is not ready for it and needs to have better health in some way. It may not be able to really focus in on the collaboration. And so it's really not a partner that's desirable to others and needs to become better prepared to be a collaborator. So sometimes it's okay to say no, I think, rather than moving into something that you're really not prepared for or it might not go well.
And I would bring up my example of the colleges working together again. That this idea was talked about a couple of years ago, maybe 2 years ago, and it just we could tell we weren't quite ready. That that was sometimes on an individual level, but also on an institutional level, that there was just, we all weren't quite ready to really allow for something new to develop. We were still hanging on to our individual agendas, to the point where, you know, we have to be able to let go to a point. I think one of Emerson's slides talks about allowing for something new to happen, and that's a key in collaboration. Is are we willing to let go of our own agendas enough to create space for something new and exciting to take place?
Great. Yeah, I think part of the self-care, especially when we start collaborating externally, is to be practicing it internally, and to feel confident that we can do it, we are ready to do it, and that it's okay, that everybody in the organization knows, okay, this really is a priority, and I'm not going to withhold my involvement, because sometimes, as we know, a CEO may say, we're going to collaborate in some way with another organization, but others in the organization may say, like, no way are we doing that. And so part of it is helping other people understand the importance of it, and so forth. Do we have a final question or comment?
We do have one more question. Are there ground rules that are helpful when you're considering collaboration with an outside organization or group?
I would echo what I said earlier. Is one I don't know if I'd call it a rule, but a kind of a shared expectation would be to create something new, rather than go in with the mindset of, okay, we'll take this from you and this from you and this from you and this from you, but to say, you know what, let's start from the ground level, and what is our shared vision? What is our shared purpose? Let's build that. And then the other pieces that get pulled in from one institution or another will become clear based on that purpose.
I think I would agree with that, with Rachel said, and I think part of it is also developing that shared vision that I talked about at the beginning. Do we have a shared vision? Do we actually have that? Or can we get to a point where we have that? If we can't, then maybe we shouldn't continue. Maybe these are not the right partners. Just because two people or organizations think they should be collaborators doesn't necessarily mean that they should be, or that that'll work out well. So I think it's making sure that you do indeed have that shared vision. And sometimes it may be better to say no, either at the beginning or partway through, than to continue on. So those would be some of the sort of ground rules or things that I would be thinking about is, can we have a shared vision? And is this something we think we can really be committed to, or should we be, so that we invest in it in a significant way and realize something new is going to happen, like Rachel was saying, or we stop the process and realize this is probably not going to be good for either party. And
one other thing I would also add to that would be, if you do move forward with the collaboration, to just acknowledge that, you know, we are going to let go of some things, and to create some space to speak to loss, so that people are able to name the importance of history or events or parts of the individual organizational culture, to speak to that loss and celebrate it, but so that everyone can agree to leave it, and move towards that newness that is created, would be another thing I would add as expectations.
Good, thank you. Thanks, Rachel. Thanks to each of you for your questions and for us today. I think we will end here. We did have a couple extra credit items that you may want to consider with your senior team or with other people in the next few days. One would be, how are you encouraging collaboration in your organization? How are you currently doing that? Or you may want to ask the question, what's preventing you from collaborating more? Maybe there's a roadblock or something that's not allowing that to occur. And what would be a good experiment to collaborate at this time for your organization? I think it's also important for organizations to experiment, or between departments to experiment, and not expect sort of the big collaborative effort, but to start small and to test things and to learn. And so what could you start today that might be smaller, but would be a collaborative effort? Also, we just wanted to highlight a couple of upcoming MHS leadership opportunities. One is the Great Transitions Retreat, which is for CEOs 55 and better. That's in October, and if you want more information, contact Emily or go to the MHS website to register for that. And also, MHS has different affinity groups that meet at different times throughout the year and throughout the country. And so if you'd like to learn more about the affinity groups, also please contact Emily Reese. Please evaluate this webinar today. There will be an online survey that you can take through Zoom. You need to do it, though, in the next 5 minutes or so. And that's the survey is only available for a few minutes. And so please take that. It's just a couple of questions, but it will be very helpful to us. Also, visit valuedleadership.org website to sign up for blogs that are coming out periodically. And our next webinar is on September the 6th at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we look forward to having you then, or invite others on September the 6th at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thanks to all of you. We hope you have a good day. Blessings to you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.